So today we're going to dive into this organization that is trying to fundamentally rewire the path to owning a home. It's called NACA. And let me tell you, their approach is just completely different from what you'd see at a traditional bank. Let's get into how they're doing it.
I mean, for so many of us, right, that question really hits home. You save up, you make a plan, you're scrolling through the listings, but the hurdles to actually getting the keys can feel impossibly high. It's this frustration that millions of people feel. Okay, so before we can really get into the solution, we've got to talk about the problem. Let's call it the home ownership hurdle. You know, all those typical roadblocks that stand between so many people and their first home. And what's crazy is these things on the screen probably look super familiar. I mean, you're expected to have, what, tens of thousands of dollars just sitting around for a down payment and all those closing costs. Then they put your credit score under a microscope, and if your down payment is less than 20%, you get hit with extra fees every month for something called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. Honestly, it can feel like the game is rigged from the start.
But what if there was a totally different way to play this game? And that's where this group, NACA, the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, comes in. They're not just offering another mortgage. They're talking about a whole new way of thinking.
So the first thing you have to understand is that NACA is a nonprofit, and that is so important. Their goal isn't to make a buck off of loans. It's about making homeownership truly affordable and, fighting for economic justice, especially against shady, predatory lending. That's the why behind their entire operation.
Okay, and this slide, this just lays it all out. The huge difference. See, on one side, you've got traditional lenders who are obsessed with your credit score. But NACA, they focus on what they call character-based lending. Looking at your actual payment history, your readiness. For them, it's not just a transaction, it's a journey, one where they counsel you and prepare you for success.
In this quote, this really just says it all, doesn't it? Their whole model is built on this idea. Let's look at the actual person, how reliable they are, how ready they are, instead of just boiling them down to a 3-digit number.
All right, so that's the big idea, the philosophy. But how does it actually work? Like, what are the steps? Let's walk through the actual NACA program step by step.
So, the whole journey kicks off with education. Everybody starts with a free homebuyer workshop. After that, you get paired up with a counselor who literally helps you build a budget and get all your documents ready. It's only after you go through all of that that you get NACA qualified, which is basically their version of a pre-approval. Then you can start looking for a house.
So you're probably wondering, okay, who is this actually for? And it's probably a wider net than you'd guess. It's for first-time buyers, for sure, but it's also for people who've owned a home before, just as long as you don't own one right now. The program really prioritizes buyers with lower to moderate incomes, but even people with higher incomes can get in on it if they're buying in certain specific areas.
And here's a really important part. NACA doesn't just disappear once you get the keys. A huge piece of their mission is making sure you don't just become a homeowner, but that you stay a successful one, for the long run.
And that's where their Home Save program comes in. But get this, and this is pretty amazing, this program is for any homeowner who's struggling, not just people who got their original mortgage with NACA. Yeah, the Home Save program is basically a lifeline if you're at risk of foreclosure. NACA will actually step in for you, negotiate with your bank, give you counseling, and they can even provide some short-term financial help to get you back on track.
And all of this, it all circles back to their bigger mission. They're not just about individual mortgages. NACA is a serious advocacy group. They're out there organizing campaigns against predatory landlords, trying to change housing policy on a huge scale.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. Let's do a quick recap of what makes the NACA mortgage so radically different, starting with the big money items.
All right, first up, the big one, the one that makes everyone do a double take: zero down payment. I'm not talking low down payment. I'm talking no down payment. That just completely removes the single biggest hurdle for most people.
But wait, it gets even better. Next up, zero closing costs. Yeah, think about that for a second. All those lender fees, the appraisal, the title insurance, that's not your problem. That's thousands of dollars that just stays in your bank account. And to complete this incredible trifecta, zero PMI. Normally, since you're not putting 20% down, you'd be stuck paying private mortgage insurance every single month. With NACA, that fee just poof, it's gone. And that means your monthly payment is lower for the whole life of the loan.
So here's the bottom line. When you add it all up, no down payment, no closing costs, no PMI, a fixed interest rate that's below the market rate, and no obsessing over credit scores, what you get is a model that is completely different. It's a system that's built on real support and fighting for the community, not just on making a transaction happen.
And All of this leaves us with a really interesting question to chew on. Look, NACA has helped hundreds of thousands of families buy homes with this model. So, what would happen if this character-first, counseling-based way of doing things wasn't the weird exception? What if it became the new standard for the entire financial industry? What could that change? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.